Website editor for Commercial Integrator. Today, I'm delighted to have Stephen Cogels, Global Director of Business Development at Plexus AV. The topic of conversation is, of course, InfoComm, coming up June 12th through 14th, taking place in Las Vegas. Stephen is going to tell us all about Plexus AV's presence at the show and why people are so excited to see what the company is going to be showcasing. Welcome, Stephen. So great to have you here today.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me, Alyssa.
So let's get right into it. Plexus AV is relatively new to the AV industry, but is actually backed by 70 years of experience through its parent company, Cencor. For those who are unfamiliar with Plexus AV, can you give us a brief introduction about the company and its recent emergence in the industry?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we kind of joke around, and we've made this joke a couple of times, so it's kind of getting old, but I'm going to use it one more time. Is we joke being a startup with 70 years of experience. Which is what we are, right? So Plexus AV is a division inside of Cencor, 100% owned by Cencor. The reason why we did that when we decided to pursue the Pro AV market is because we wanted to make sure that our messaging and our scoping of our products was just going to be exactly in line with what Pro AV customers are looking for. So instead of just being a broadcast company that moves into Pro AV and basically sells the same things with the same messaging, the same details, the same technical details, we wanted to make sure that we really focus it on the Pro AV industry. So that is what Plexus is. A startup with 70 years of experience that's really focused on the Pro AV integration market.
I love that saying. Interoperability among vendors is a known issue in the AV over IP landscape. Stephen, could you just elaborate a little bit more on these challenges and their impact on future-proofing installations?
Yeah, absolutely. So interoperability, the connections between equipment from multiple vendors being able to create best-in-breed solutions, which is kind of like what system integration is about, right? If you do not have that and you're kind of locked into a specific vendor, specific solution, right? It automatically creates silos, because if you think about bigger organizations, they have multiple use cases for their equipment that they buy and that they have integrators install, right? So you end up with a system that's very good in one thing in one room and another system in the other room or in a different building. But it's not really interoperable with each other, because you can't send singles or audio and video singles from A to B or from vendor A to B. Yeah, there's some interoperability on the control level, right? You just put a management layer on top of that and then you can control everything. So for the user, it will feel like the system is integrated, but ultimately it just stops on the control level. So being able to go deeper than the control level and going into the audio and video level interoperability is very critical for future-proofing installations, because then you can expand on your existing systems instead of having to throw them away after 5 to 7 years, right? So in short, it kind of reduces functionalities and it creates silos, and it doesn't allow you to do any connections to the outside world or into other systems.
With AV over IP becoming the standard in most AV projects, what are some of the biggest challenges integrators face with current solutions?
I think by far the biggest challenge that integrators have been facing and are still facing, depending on which integrator you talk to, is the move of AV and IT, right? They used to be completely separated departments in a lot of bigger organizations, and now we've seen them merge over the years and changing. I think it's in some organizations been a little bit of a fight between AV and IT, but more recently we've seen the IT heavy side of that, like having more control over AV and IT decisions in organizations. So as an integrator, you need to have that expertise in house, and you need to know what's going on in the market. So I think that's definitely one thing. IT people, they have a different background, right? So if you've grown up, and there's been a lot of discussion in the AV industry, like how do people end up in the AV industry? A lot of them end up in the industry by luck, by chance, it just happens. But IT is from a training perspective, an education perspective, is a lot stronger. It's been stronger for years. So when you go into the AV market with an IT background, you get surprised by the fact of the lack of interoperability, the lack of interop between various vendors. Because if you look at the IT market, everything kind of works together, right? You go and buy a printer, it works with your computer, and it just works. So that's definitely a challenge that integrators are facing when they're now talking to more IT-focused management layers inside of organizations.
How does Plexus AV's approach to interoperability break down the traditional boundaries and silos seen in AV over IP installations?
Well, so first of all, you need to find a common ground, right? Because if you want something to work with something else from a different vendor, you need to have a common ground. The common ground is a standard, and the standards we've been using standards for a long time, right? Like even if you own a bike, right? You go and buy a pump, it actually fits on your bike, but also on all the other bikes because we decided everybody's going to be using the same connection to do that. So, for instance, in telephony, right, VoIP, this has been going on for it's a while ago, but yeah, we defined a standard, and that's the reason why equipment from various vendors actually works together. So, first of all, you need to use a standard, right? That's the first thing. And fortunately for us, when we wanted to get back into the Pro AV space, IPMX, which is the only proposed open standard for Pro AV AV over IP, was announced, and we were able to jump on that right away because we understand that. And second, even if you use a standard, then still it doesn't say anything about how you look at other technologies in the market as a vendor, right? Because you could still use a standard, but then make your own implementation completely proprietary, as in like it only works for me. So that's the two things that we did. So we decided to start working with the standard, so with IPMX, and based all our products on IPMX, but also we didn't want to become a walled garden, as in we embrace other technologies.
Looking ahead, how do you see AV over IP landscape evolving, and what role do you envision Plexus AV playing in that future?
Well, like I mentioned, VoIP, right? So that's also something. If you look at other technology changes, they were all proprietary first, then they became open standard. So we're expecting that to happen. So it's not a matter of if, it's just like when the market would be able to adopt it fully, right? So that's one thing that I'm definitely expecting will happen and will continue within the next months, years, and we'll see a change on how people look at AV over IP. And I think for us, like we're one of the companies that are kind of leading the charge, right? There's a handful of companies that really jumped on IPMX very early on, and we were one of those companies. So we've been able to kind of lead the charge, help educate the market, help almost evangelize IPMX and share the value. The interesting thing for that is like if you share the value of IPMX, you're not specifically just talking about your own company. You're talking about the entire market and the benefit that it brings for the market. So in that sense, we've been able to get into a good position, and we're definitely looking at making sure that we become successful in that part of the market. But we will be extending our products as well when we move into 2025 and beyond.
IPMX is such like a hot trend right now, so definitely excited to see what Plexus AV does in that space. As the entire Pro AV industry community gears up for InfoComm, how does Plexus AV plan to showcase its presence and offerings? What's the single biggest reason that showgoers should check out the booth? When they arrive, what's the very first thing that they should ask about or see?
Well, so of course we know we need to show the solutions in a real live working demo, right? So definitely our booth is going to be a real live working demo with a video wall, multiple screens, showing how we're moving these IPMX signals from A to B and how you can control them. The specific thing they need to ask about, I would say, is show me you guys' USB implementation, because with USB webcam and keyboard and mouse capabilities, we are really the first one showing a full-fledged AV over IP solution focused on the Pro AV integration market and built upon this open standard that we talked about, IPMX. So that's definitely a big thing. The other thing they definitely need to check out, that I would absolutely recommend, is our visual array. Management systems come in many forms and many types, right? Some free, some charged, some on dedicated hardware, some virtual deployments. But in the end, it's all about how easy it is for the user and what does it bring the user, right? So with our visual array, we really worked very hard to put together a system that will help the integrator configure the system, commission the system faster, and also provide a lot of monitoring tools at the same time, so it remains its value. We've seen a good amount of systems on the market that, yeah, they're good for setting it up, but then like, what's the value of the management system after that? we've really looked at like all the angles that you can have with this monitoring and control system. So that's called our visual array, which we're also going to be demonstrating at InfoComm, of course.
Oh, I can't wait to see your booth at InfoComm. Just to wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd like to add, or do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, the only thing is like I actually responded to somebody on LinkedIn yesterday that was still like showing the mouth mask that we had when we were doing social distancing, and that made me realize like why I look forward to shows like InfoComm, right? We look forward to being like close to our partners and our customers and sharing what we're thinking, but even more important, getting their feedback on like what we're doing and where they think we should be making changes. So I'm really looking forward to InfoComm. I think it's going to be warm in Vegas, so that's never a bad thing. And I'm hoping to see everybody there.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining me today. And thanks again for sharing some insight about what people can look forward to seeing at the Plexus AV booth, which will be in the Central Hall, C9069. Please check back on commercialintegrator.com on the run up to InfoComm throughout the show, and of course after the show for more exciting thought leadership content from the industry's leading manufacturers. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you at booth C9069.